First one is called Young Woman Knitting on a Train. Me sitting knotted in commuters, sun doing its best to light the corners I dare look at. She gets on, sits in the one remaining space, diverts the light, begins to knit, wool thread emerging from a plastic bag. Her needles catch the sun, they glint and click, pulling the strand from scratch into the beginning of an unknown garment. From the shadows of trees and bridges, stations, I'm glad to be diverted from reluctance to be sucked into the city. Her concentration, the oblivious to me watching half smile on her face, makes me envious, concentrating on her pattern. Knit one, purl one, let the train go on, start something for the future that she can carry on with on the journeys yet to come. Okay, I am skating around in space and time here a lot. This next one was written, for those of you who read The Guardian, they occasionally publish pieces from their vaults, dating right back. And I saw a piece by a chap who'd been a journalist out with the soldiers of World War I, the reserves, while they were actually waiting to go into battle. And what was strange to me is that they were all centred around this little French cafe, which was obviously still doing business despite what was going on. Anyway, this poem is called Mère Lanier. Come in, mes enfants. She smiles through eyes both distant and at home. She wipes her oilcloth tabletops against the coming of her English soldier clients. Her Flanders cafe, the front line for reserves. Coffee, fried eggs, bread and butter, softening the distant thud of guns, punctuating nervous chatter. Through her windows, across the fields ploughed out of season, she views the village's half-ghosted buildings and wonders who'll remain to make her open once again to countrymen. Another soldier enters to begin his tale of war. 2 gunners gone by hostile shells, seeking flesh and bone. She serves him coffee, speaking in her native tongue. They all know what she means by les pauvres garçons, their eyes both distant and at home. I'm actually not going to read this one. This is a bit too much of a leap. Okay, I think I've got time for this. This is a poem I wrote having made a journey to Ukraine, and starting in Kiev and going right down to the Crimea. And I hope it's kind of self-explanatory, but you can ask me afterwards if not. It's called To the Palace of Bakhchisarai. My journey to Ukraine, a history book for Westerners once discovered. Kiev, from ancient gate of Russian Empire to Orange Revolution, one long story of survival. I arrive on plane, join with boat to take me on the Dnieper, drowned in golden domes. Sailing south, the river flows through wheat fields once defended by the Cossacks. Days later, I would wonder if Pushkin came this way. The Russian poet whitewater rafting the Zaporizhian rapids, writing about vodka with the hetman. The Black Sea beckons, Odessa shows its sparkle, the steps of revolution suppressed, but not forgotten in this port of ideas. A night's rest, then the sea itself, calm but dark indeed, alter ego of the translucent Mediterranean. Sevastopol, the delicate lady used to hiding navies under her skirts, now shows at last a more subtle allure. Crimea spreads behind her. The moment is nearly here. I am still unaware. I pass through the valley of death, now growing vines on the bones of Cardigan's brigade. Strange allies lie here, not forgotten, but buried all the same. Broad plains give way to smaller fields. Rocks poke through rough-grassed hills, concealing caves. At last, a town cuts a thin line in the landscape. A small river runs by the road. Small houses shine white in intermittent sunlight. And then, so unexpectedly, a minaret stands tall above decorated walls and gates. For the first time, I walk into an ancient domain of Islam. A courtyard, trees, flowers, a palace to my right, a mosque to my left. Allowed to wander, I explore the rooms that once were home to khans, see where they luxuriated after battles. In a tiny square, the waiting story starts. A bust of Pushkin on a plinth, next to a fountain that always cries. Khan Krimgarai, with all the women of his harem to choose, fell in love with a captured Polish girl, the one who would not submit. Homesick, she took her own life, denying him forever. He, so heartbroken, ordered a fountain to be built from stones that wept. A challenge for an architect, but it was built, and weep it does, or so appears. On his visit, Pushkin, so moved by the fountain's story, placed 2 roses at its head, one red for the desperate Khan, one yellow for the girl's lost life, immortalised the story in a poem, The Fountain of Bakshisarai. I looked around at streaming sun through multicoloured stained glass windows, the fountain's tears and Pushkin's head, the peace, the beauty mould with sadness, the inscription on the stone I couldn't read, but tried to understand. Standing in the palace of Bakshisarai, Europe to my left, Asia to my right, I wished this human story could travel west and east, or west and east could somehow meet, here at the foot of this small fountain, and realise when hurt is great enough, that stones indeed do weep.